What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. I am joined today by Darren Wurz. Darren is a financial planner. He's the founder and CEO of the Lawyer Millionaire. Today, I want to talk about with him building wealth and exit strategies. I thought he was the right guy to come on since he is the original concept creator of the Lawyer Millionaire. He's also a published author with a book under his name as well called The Lawyer Millionaire. Darren, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tom. Yeah, we keep things consistent over here. Use the same name for everything.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. No, thanks for having us on. I think that the timing's always right to talk about financial planning. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a data guy. I know we have that in common. And I've been hearing more and more stories that are just, to me, tragedies. Like I asked at lunch the other day, I'm like, when do lawyers ever decide I'm consciously just going to retire? I just want to step out, step back, do something else. Maybe it's just a New York thing. Literally, a young attorney said, oh, this guy's never going to retire. He's either going to die at his desk or I forget what the other option was. But basically, neither one was a great option, right?
Yeah.
So let's start off with what made you focus in law as a financial planner? And you're a certified financial planner, right? Yep. What made you transition to working exclusively with lawyers and law firms?
Well, that's a long story, but to put it shortly, I started out as an independent financial advisor working with my dad, had a lot of various clients. It was very community-based for many, many years in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky region. As I was building my business, it just so happened that a lot of my clients were attorneys, and I started to become more interested and learned more about what it takes to build a good business, right? And one of the key factors in building a strong business is to have a well-defined target customer. Like, who is the actual person that you are going after? Who do you want to serve? It's easy when you're just starting out. Everybody's a client. You can be a client. You can be a client. You can all be clients.
The Oprah model, right? The Oprah Winfrey model.
But it's very difficult to serve a variety of clients because clients have different needs and have different types of resources that they're looking for. So I decided to niche down to working with lawyers and law firm owners. And this was 2019. So I've been doing this a long time. I'd been in the business for a while. And at the time, I saw it as a golden opportunity because I could not find any financial advisors at the time who focused on lawyers and law firm owners. And so I saw it as a wide open area, an underserved area, and started to take the plunge.
All right. Well, so is there anything unique about lawyers that could be positive or not so positive?
Well, as I learned, the legal field is very broad. There are many different kinds of lawyers, and it's not enough to simply specialize in working with lawyers. And I had to ask myself the question, what really is unique about lawyers for a long time, right? Where you really start to specialize is where you start to get into specific groups of lawyers, like maybe big law partners or different types of groups. What I really found I enjoyed was working with law firm owners, small law firm owners doing maybe $500,000 to $2 million plus in revenue. They're starting to build a team. They're really interested in growth. And what I found is that in addition to needing help with the financial planning, which is often neglected, they really needed help with business planning. And that was really what was more appealing to them, was to have somebody help them with the business, help me grow my business. And so we built out a team that includes a financial planner, an investment advisor, but also a business consultant, a business advisor to coach you and to work with you one-on-one, as a CEO advisor, to help you really step into that business owner role and think about your role as a true CEO in your law firm and how you grow it. Because that, stocks and bonds, we need those. But one of the biggest drivers of your wealth is going to be the growth of your business. And so anything I can do to help you there is going to help you grow your wealth.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I'm entering the 25th year in the law firm, and I've invested in broad instruments across the way, real estate, stocks, whatever. Still the best yield I get is my law firm, right?
100%.
When I invest my time, my money. And so I know a lot of people will say to you, investing is easy, right? What's your take? Because there's always going to be objections, I feel like, when people talk to a financial advisor, because you have some of the most well-known famous investors in the world who are like, you don't need a financial advisor, just put it in an index fund, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to ask you, how do you deal with those objections? What's your answer when you get a sales objection of, hey man, investing's easy, I can do it myself? Or if Warren Buffett says I don't need an advisor and I just put it in an index fund, what can you tell me to change my mind?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you. You could do just fine putting your money in an index fund. That is great. And 99% of advisors, well, maybe not 99%, but a good chunk of advisors are trying to differentiate them and trying to prove their value on the investments. And that's a mistake, because the true difference maker, where we make the most difference, is in the implementation and the execution, and in the more detailed and nuanced strategies like tax loss harvesting and making sure things are tax efficient for you. And as you get to a certain size of a portfolio, maybe it's no longer about the indexed fund. Maybe we're going to build your own index, which is totally doable now because, you have zero commissions on ETF, on stock trades, right? And so we can build out an index. We can build you a portfolio of 100 companies, and that might be a lot more tax efficient than owning the index. But also, I think the bigger thing is not getting swayed and not getting off track. Because what I find is that the average investor actually underperforms the indexes pretty significantly on their own. And the reason why is because they're constantly making changes to their portfolio.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
I heard I should include gold. Oh, I heard I should have this stock in there. Oh, I heard I should do this. And so you're constantly shifting things around. So a lot of our job is preventing mistakes that can be costly.
Okay. Is a key component of what you put together, does it involve life insurance? Does it involve specific insurance instruments as well?
Ooh, I hate insurance, Tom.
Well, so do I. Look, I have a friend who's in the business, and he was like, look, if I'm being candid, X, Y, and Z is junk. And if you just put it into an index fund, you'll be your own insurance policy down the road, that kind of thing. Well, he gave me a bunch of different alternatives. Now, that being said, I do have, and I had an insurance strategy that was mostly for myself, and just talking to myself, was when my daughter was born, I started to put in staged term life while I was in my peak earning years, with drop-offs at every 10 or 15 year mark. Mm-hmm. So that by the time I'm 100, there'll still be one policy left, which is not term. I forget what they call it. It's like a whole life policy, but they don't call it whole life anymore. And it'll be there till I'm like 99. My wife is 99. None of us should need the money, but it'll be there for a residual for my daughter. And I did that because I was like, all right, one legacy pop is good. I don't need to leave that much in an insurance policy. So that was just a strategy that I deployed after speaking with an insurance person who wasn't trying to sell me the sky on insurance as an investment.
You hit the nail on the head. Let's keep the things in the buckets that they belong in. Insurance is a tool for risk management, primarily. No one ever became a millionaire because they invested in an indexed universal life policy.
That's what I have, actually. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. great for risk mitigation, but we have to be really, really, really careful because life insurance, and I want to caveat, I love term policies. I love, I'm a buy term, invest the difference kind of guy. There are use cases for indexed or cash value policies, such as funding a special needs trust or using as an estate transfer mechanism or something like that into an irrevocable trust or something like that, or certain charitable intentions. But it's not a tool for building wealth. We've got to be really clear about that. I see
right, because some people will sell you that, and I'm like, nah, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And you see so many people today who are being taken advantage of by these policies. There was the NASCAR guy, I forget his name. He's suing the insurance company because he put hundreds of thousands of dollars into these insurance policies and then realized the whole thing was total bullshit.
Oh, man.
It's really taken advantage of.
Yeah. It's so heartbreaking. I hate to hear that stuff. So you mentioned tax loss harvesting. And it's funny because I just started to do some of that myself. Because if you have a real estate deal you're planning and you're going to sell, you're like, oh, wait a minute, let me figure out the tax structuring of this, right? So for anybody who's listening to this, one, talk about what you're seeing as the tax planning trend and where it can impact law firm owners specifically, but also for people that don't know what tax loss harvesting is, talk about it because it's a more sophisticated planning tool. So talk about it. Let's give the listeners, a background on it.
Yeah. So if I buy a stock and it goes down in value, I can sell the stock and I can harvest that loss. And I can use that loss to offset gains in other stocks. Okay. So this becomes, you can deduct part of it. I think it's like $3,000. You can straight up deduct losses. Right. And then the rest of it you can use to offset gains. So this becomes really helpful in taxable brokerage accounts. It's not going to be helpful for you in your retirement accounts because those are tax deferred. But, let's say you have significant taxable savings. And a lot of our clients do because they've made so much money. They've far exceeded what they've been able to put in their IRAs and 401ks. And so they've been putting money in a brokerage account, building up the funds over time. Well, you end up with these positions that have large embedded gains, right? I bought a stock 20 years ago and now it's significantly higher. It has a huge gain embedded in it. If I sell it, I'm going to be taxed. And granted, those taxes are usually a little bit more favorable. You're being taxed your capital gains rates, which are much better than your ordinary income rates. But if you're a high income earner, you may be subject to the net investment income tax and different things like that. So the tax loss harvesting is basically we want to harvest those losses. We want to sell things when they're down, and then we can use that loss to offset gains, try to trim and capture some of those gains while we can. So it's hard to do that in a portfolio of 5 ETFs that are all stock indexes because the stock indexes all go up over time, right? You're not going to probably have a significant appreciable loss to realize until we have a bear market,
Right. But let me ask you a question about that because my understanding, and again, I'm not an expert on this at all, is the harvested loss can be applied cross assets. So if you have a very appreciable gain, that's a capital gain on real estate, you can crisscross that loss, which is where I was like, oh, that's awesome because, it does give you that mechanism beyond that ridiculous $3,000 loss amount that, if you have a $30,000 loss, you'll be writing that off for 10 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, these are assets. So stocks are assets, real estate's asset. Anything that's classified as an asset is going to go into that bucket and it can be utilized in that way. The other really big thing with tax planning. So I want to talk to you a little bit about tax planning. You're right. Tax planning has become really kind of a viral topic. But again, this is a place where you really have to be careful because there are a lot of tax planners out there doing illegitimate things.
See, that's terrifying. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking in my head, I talked to a really well-known law firm and they were like, so this is what we do. There's these solar farms and you invest this much and you get it. And I was like, how do you differentiate legitimate tax planning versus illegitimate tax planning? And who ends up holding the bag if you're trusting a tax lawyer to do structuring on stuff? He says, this is totally fine under the IRS code.
Yes. So one of my friends, very high income earners in the medical field, owns medical practices and was approached by a tax attorney to set up a captive insurance agency within his business for the tax write-off. I went to the IRS's website and found captive insurance agencies listed on their dirty dozen list as a list of schemes that they specifically are targeting as fraudulent tax schemes.
Oh, and this was a tax attorney recommending it.
Yes, you can Google it. You can go IRS Dirty Dozen. They have a list of fraudulent tax schemes that they are on the lookout for.
I'm going to do that right now. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So, I mean, you see all these ads on TikTok and everywhere else, and people are like promoting all of these things. Solar is one too. But here's the test. The test is this, and the IRS will apply this test. Was this set up purely for the tax purposes, or did it have a legitimate business reason? And if they determine that it was not a legitimate business reason, but actually solely intentionally for the tax purpose, they will disqualify it.
Well, and that's the thing. You see all these crap targeted to personal injury lawyers, right? I'm a personal injury lawyer. Don't pay taxes on your legal fees. We're going to defer taxes on your legal fees, and it's all legit. And I just keep scrolling because I'm like, listen, people are saying they're doing it. I know people that are doing it.
Now, that one actually is good, but there are some pitfalls. So structured fee arrangements, I think, is what you're describing.
I don't know, because when I see that stuff, anything that sounds too good to be true, there are two things I know, as my accountant is fond of saying every time he gives me a tax bill. Hey, you're making the money, right? So it's just part of being a citizen in the U.S. where, look, if there's a legitimate tax savings to be had, of course I want to know about it. But there are so many scammers out there, and especially social media. If you read it on social media, please, anybody listening to this, just ignore it. Go talk to somebody, a financial planner. Yeah. Do your research before you send somebody a check for, several $100,000 under the guise of, I won't have to pay taxes on it. It never rubs me the right way. So
the rule I have is, let's not let the tax tail wag the rest of the dog. Okay.
Right.
And that applies
I like
to your
that
businesses.
rule.
Yeah, that's business as well as your investments. I see people doing backflips to do these tax maneuvers, and you're a law firm owner, right? What's your time worth? $500, $1,000, $2,000 an hour, right?
Right.
So if I'm going to invest 500 hours this year because I need to get this tax write-off, is it really truly netting me a profit when I factor in the use of my time? We really have to think about that.
Right. Well, look, it's more than that too. The agita, or the acid reflux of having to worry, did you take the wrong advice from the wrong person? And all of a sudden, one thing is certain. If it ain't legit, they will figure it out and they will come looking, right? So you want to stay on the right side of that stuff. Like, you could be aggressive, but there's a big difference between aggressive and illegal. Right. And so you got to do your homework. If somebody's telling you, I don't know, all I think of, like, wait, I'm supposed to buy and invest in a solar farm. I don't know, man. I'm not in the solar business, so I don't know how that's going to play out if there's ever an audit. So I don't know, But listen, to each his own. It's just, you brought up the tax strategy aspect of what you do, and I have been very focused on that this year, trying to plan ahead at the beginning of 2026. So
I will tell you, the biggest thing that we do around tax planning is planning where the money is and how we have structured it in terms of, is it in a taxable account? What assets are we holding in the taxable account? Is it in a tax deferred account like an IRA or a 401k? Is it in a Roth? Are we doing Roth conversions when it makes sense? The Roth conversion is the golden tool of tax planning because it's all about the timing of income. We want to pay the tax when it makes the most sense to pay the tax. So in those lesser income years, maybe we have a year, revenue was a bit down, profit was a bit down, we're going to have a little bit of a loss on our tax return. Great. Let's celebrate, pop a bottle, because this is the year we can do some Roth conversions. We're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Right?
Okay.
So we want to play that. That's the biggest thing we can do, probably. And then as you get older, if you ever do retire, or, you slow down in practice and your income is down, that is the time we want to really do some heavy Roth conversions.
Right, because then you're in a lower bracket again, right? Like that's where you want to do it.
Yeah.
And that was always listen, again, I'm not an expert in this, but that was when people were telling me, and it was my account at the time, it was like when you're choosing between the IRAs, if you're not going to touch it at all from your 20s to your 70 or 60, whatever it is that you have to do the mandatory withdrawals, you want to try to do it in the Roth one because when you convert it down the road, you'll be in a lower bracket. That's the idea behind the Roth IRA, right? And converting it at the right time.
Yeah, the pre-tax IRA, right? So when you're really young and you're not making a whole lot yet, I would use the Roth because you're going to get that tax benefit later. In your peak earning years, your really high income earning years, you want to really maximize deductions. So you're going to be utilizing that pre-tax IRA, the pre-tax 401k, maybe setting up a cash balance plan for yourself so you can really squirrel away some money. I mean, a lot of our clients are in that highest tax bracket. They're making $1 million plus on their personal income return. So 20 years from now, when you retire, it's not going to be that way. So we want to really maximize our deductions. And that's where something like a cash balance plan, really maximizing our 401k is going to be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by TonaLaw, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at TonaLaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. All right, so I do want to make sure we talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, exit planning and succession.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked offline about this, but why don't we just give everybody, because people are used to hearing it on the show, let's just do a reality check of exit planning and succession and what it can look like for a law firm and what it actually really plays out like.
Right. So from my perspective, exit planning is just good business strategy. You need to think from day one about your exit plan. You will exit your law firm, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Okay. It's either going to be on your terms or it's going to be on someone else's terms. And so we need to be thinking about exit. Now, I would argue exit planning is growth strategy because when you're thinking about exit planning, you're trying to solve the number one problem, which is owner dependence. That's the number one problem. The number one reason why law firms are not sellable is because they are too dependent on the owner. If your business is entirely dependent on you because your clients work with you and they won't work with anybody else, you don't have a business to sell.
Right.
And it's about protecting value. Now, we need to I kind of see two camps, right? There are those who think law firms can't be sold. I'll never get anything for this business. That's an extreme. There are others who think, I'm going to get 20x EBITDA for this business.
Right.
That's an extreme. Okay.
Right.
The exit planning community really wants people to sell their business because they get paid for people selling their business. And that's great. But I want a reality check here, right? The cash that you will get from your business is not going to give you the same cash flow that you're used to. Okay. Let's say you're running a law firm and you're making $1 million a year profit. Okay. After, we're talking about before tax profit. Let's say you could sell that for 5x earnings, right? That would be generous, but let's say you could sell it for 5x earnings. You're going to get $5 million. Okay. What can I put $5 million in that's going to give me $1 million a year? That's a 20% return.
Right. You're not going to get that.
Not going to get it. Okay.
Right.
So what I encourage law firm owners to do, we need to be thinking about exit planning because it's going to help you. It's going to help you have a better business. It's going to help you have a less stressful business. It's going to help you have a more profitable business. We need to be planning for that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're building wealth outside the business. And I know a lot of law firm owners who are neglecting that because they're like, oh, it's fine. I'm just reinvesting in the business. The business is my biggest asset. Well, yes, hip, hip, hooray. But you're not going to be able to capture that value as effectively as you think and pass that value on to your kids or rely on that value if you want to retire as well.
Right. In my opinion, I'm with you on it. I think you have to take money out and invest it wisely, both in real estate, in equities, in a portfolio approach, really, right?
You need that.
You need balance, right? Exactly. I didn't realize that that's a unique thought process. I just think everybody invests in real estate. Everybody buys stocks. Like, why would anybody spend money on flashy stuff? Like, that's just not, like, I'm not a lifestyle creep type of guy, right? Like, I think I told you when we were talking offline, anytime we would have a massive influx of revenue on a big case or whatever, I literally will lock up whatever my profit draw is in something I can't take no matter what, because I was so ingrained in me through my father's beliefs that money is either supposed to be invested or saved, and spending should be for essentials only. That's just kind of like how I was raised. My wife was like, we should take some money and redo the kitchen. And I was like, you don't like to cook. I'm the one who cooks. Like, why would I spend money on a kitchen that I'm fine cooking in, right? And we joke around about it all the time. But to me, I guess having seen, now I've been practicing law 30 years. Some of the biggest name partners at some of the firms I was at as an associate died penniless.
Yes.
Penniless. They always had a flashy car. They always, spent money as if the party would never end.
Yeah.
And so that was another cautionary tale for me, because I was like, this is not about looking successful. It's about being successful. It's not about looking wealthy. So like, I've always been more consumed with my net worth statement than my income and loss statement. Does that make sense? Like I'm a big believer in the most important piece of paper is your net worth statement, because when you want to retire, if you're forced to, or the Grim Reaper comes and kicks down your door, what's on the net worth statement, that provides for your family. That provides if you set up your estate planning the right way. So I've always just been like, hey, big pops, if we didn't have it, let's act like we don't have it. Lock it up in something, whether it's sending it to an investment advisor, and just say, lock it up for a time period, no matter what, it can't be touched. Now, I don't know, maybe that could be dangerous on a rainy day type of fund, but I still have a rainy day fund,
Tom, you remind me of one of my other clients, very similar, very successful, however, thinking about retiring, but has way more money. And what we had to do is help him understand and help him give himself permission to spend money.
Look, I get it. Like, I probably have to go talk to somebody about it, because I'm literally at 57 compulsive about it. Like, I'll spend on my wife and my daughter for gifts. But I mean, my daughter's 16. What kind of gifts do I don't need to buy her a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
Like still got college to pay for. I don't want her to have debt. So like, I look at it like, if I have to have a problem, I'd rather it be the problem I have than what I have seen where, I always had this thing where if somebody pulls up in a BMW, in the back of my head, I go, 50% of people I know that have that car can't afford it.
Well, BMWs are horrible anyway. They don't last.
The point being, I have seen people through the years. Yeah. Look, there's levels of nice stuff that you can have if you want to spend on something. So you can buy if you say, hey, if I achieve this milestone in my career, I want to get this type of car.
Yeah.
But do you need a car that other people spend that same money on a house? To me, you can do that if you've got X amount in the bank. And so I go, for me to spend $200,000 on a car, in my head, I want 50 million in the bank, 100 million liquid at my disposal. Mm-hmm. What do I need a $200,000 car for? My ass doesn't know the difference between a Jeep Cherokee and a Ferrari, right? Now, I'm not a car guy, and some people are, you know what I mean? So,
sure.
But that's just that practical side of money, right? And so what you were saying, which is funny, is that we all have beliefs about money. Mm-hmm. Right. And they come from our childhood. And so I know you told me there was the book about psychology of money. You said same guy wrote a book about the psychology of spending money or something like that.
Yes. The art of spending money. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably the book I need to read, because I'm the guy that's like, throw away the key, lock it up and throw away the key,
Well, it can be really helpful. One of the things that we do with clients is we have an incredible program that helps us do this, but we show them exactly what kind of a paycheck they can create for themselves in retirement, utilizing all their different resources, investment portfolio, business interests, Social Security income, etc. And I'll tell you, it's very eye-opening, because most people, it's more than they anticipated.
That's always a nice surprise.
I can't guarantee that'll be the same for everyone, but
right.
if you're of this mindset that you've been really a disciplined saver and you really have stayed within your means and you've built a sizable portfolio, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with that number. And it's a little bit different than maybe you've heard of the 4% rule, which is a good starting point. Take your portfolio and multiply by 4%. That's what you can start spending. It's actually more than that, because what the 4% rule doesn't account for is adjustments in spending. And so what we're going to do, if the market tanks, we're going to adjust spending. We're going to spend less. And that massively increases the survivability of your portfolio, which means you can spend more. And we can show people at what point you can give yourself a raise. And it's just really eye-opening. And when people see that, they're like, and then it really starts to become real. Like, let's actually start to think about this. And I find a lot of law firm owners, they don't think about retirement, maybe because they're very busy. I think when you're young, it's a kind of a foreign concept. You think, oh, I'll never retire. What would I do? But as you get older, you start to get tired.
You get tired, man. You do. Listen, and again, how old are you? How old are you?
Be 39 this year.
Yeah. So as a guy in his 50s, 57, almost 60s. So
let me not age myself too fast.
No. But what I'm saying is, especially for the people that are in their 20s and 30s, you think it lasts forever, right? You don't think about death. You don't think about getting sick. But then I find from 55 to 60, because I have friends in that bracket with me, that's where the reality sets in of mortality. And all of a sudden you're like, I am moving a little slower and I am tired, and that's just the way life is. And that's it. Like, that's the reality, regardless of whatever they're selling you on social media. So it starts to sink in like, oh, wait a minute. I got way more behind me than I do in front of me time-wise, right? So you start to think about that stuff. And I'm lucky because I've always surrounded myself, again, with the same type of people where it's not a flash contest, right? It's one thing if you're buying real estate and you buy good real estate, nice real estate, high resale value. It's another thing and again, they all tend to invest in equities. They all tend to have retirement accounts.
Yep.
Because we're not trying to outdo each other in our circle, right? So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see the other people's psychology of money. And you do tend to gravitate, right? You tend to gravitate towards, if you're one of those flashy, keeping up with the Jones, you surround yourself with people like that. And then all of a sudden you're, up to your eyeballs in debt because you had to drive a fancy car that you shouldn't be driving and, all of that stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. You must see a lot of interesting different things in what you do.
Definitely. It is something to, I think, really be aware of, because when you're young, you do think, I can do this forever. You don't anticipate that you're going to get tired. You're not going to have the same amount of energy you used to, or you're just going to get tired of it, right? So there will come a point where you don't want to work as hard as you've been working. That will happen. And I tell you, one of the key lessons I learned from the psychology of money, he says, true wealth is what you don't see. And I think I would add a corollary to that. And I would say, the biggest flex really is freedom. Be able to say, I don't have to go into work today if I don't want to, right? I could literally throw the keys on the desk, walk out the door and say, hey guys, I'm done. And
that's the flex.
Right?
Yeah. Freedom is the flex. Freedom of, do you have to work or do you want to work? Do you work at all? And choosing who you want to work with, right? Yeah. That financial freedom gives you the ability to say no, and saying no is freedom, right? You don't have to say yes to everything when it comes to clients, people on your team, vendors, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of early generation lawyers that listen to this, 20s and 30s. A lot of people tell me, oh, I heard your podcast. I love it. Whatever. Yeah. When should they start thinking about the succession planning and investing strategies?
Yeah, now.
Now, right? Now is the answer. It's never too early, right?
Actually, I take that back. The correct answer is yesterday. The second best answer is today.
Well, let me ask you another question, because I belong to a networking group. And it's interesting. I had 2 networking meetings this week. One is a broad spectrum, and then the other one is all very high earning, high net worth business owners that are in acquisition mode. I was attending an acquisition seminar because I'm in acquisition mode for my practice. But the interesting part of it is, the one thing I took away from my other networking group was the financial planner said, listen, everybody thinks you need X amount to get a financial planner. And that's just not true. We understand that hard times happen. We understand that people are just starting out, you know, and he was saying, look, if you've got $10,000, start with that, right? Five, whatever it is. And I mean, there may be a point where it's for you, you go, look, I can't help somebody sub X amount, but do you subscribe to the same belief that, hey, listen, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Detach yourself from any attachment to a dollar amount or anything like that. Like, just start. $10,000 tomorrow may become $12,000 at the end of the year, you know?
100%. And, you know, this is one of the innovations that we had, is that we came up with a flat fee model because we recognize a lot of our clients were making great money. They were highly invested in their law firms, but they didn't have a huge portfolio to invest. And so they didn't have a financial planner, or maybe they had one, but they weren't able to get the quality of services that they really needed. And what they really need is a wealth management team. They need a tax planner, and they need a financial planner, and they need these people, but they don't have $1 million portfolio to plunk down at, you know, a large firm to get wealth management. So we came up with the flat fee model, which I think works really well for law firm owners because it separates us from the investments. We're not trying to get more of your money. We're coming at it from a very objective fiduciary standpoint to say, you're paying us strictly for our advice. We're not here to sell you a product. You know, we're just going to give you the truth and the upfront honesty about what we think is really best for you. But I would say, yes, start somewhere, start anywhere. Start at Vanguard or Betterment or one of these robo platforms. It's really, really easy. And it doesn't have to be, a lot of times people are intimidated to start saving because they're like, I have to have a lot of money. Well, if you just start with $100 a month or even less, maybe just to flex those muscles and start training yourself that this is what we do. We set aside money each month. And it's, I forget the term, but there's a psychological component to this. Okay. It's the reason that people retire millionaires just because they were contributing to their 401k all their life. Right.
Listen, it becomes almost a gamification of it, right? Where, so like, I'm amazed. We offer a 401k here and I max whatever I can into that thing. You know why? I don't even see it. I don't even feel it.
100%.
So like, I'm always shocked when, you know, if I'm doing a financing deal for the business and they're like, hey, we need your assets for a net worth statement. And I'm like, all right, let me go in and look at my 401k, right? And I'm like, holy cow, I forgot all about this. Like, I forgot all about it. And so I'm always amazed because you can see on the administration panel, I literally walk around and I beg people. I'm like, listen, we're doing a percentage match, whether you're in it or not. Right? I forget what it's called, the setup we have for our 401k, but I'm like, please, you're leaving money on the table. This is a raise you give yourself. Please consider it. Please think about investing because you can invest as little as 1%.
So let me ask you a question. Do you know who one of the wealthiest groups of retirees is?
I'm going to take a guess. This is a good question. UPS drivers.
That would be a good guess because they've got a great benefit package.
They do. I know, you know how many UPS drivers I know that are millionaires? Yeah. Millionaires. Yeah. Guys retired wearing those brown shorts. And I'm like, you were smarter than me.
Probably stock options too, but I was going to say teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers.
I believe it.
Let me tell you why. I actually was a teacher. I taught for 5 years. I taught 8th and 9th grade science in Ohio. And as a teacher, you don't have a choice in the matter. You automatically 13% of your paycheck, I think it's 13%, goes into a 401k style fund. Automatic. You don't get to say, you can't turn it off. You can't opt out.
That's awesome.
Automatic.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, it's funny that you say that. Yeah, it's funny you say that.
Then the school matches it.
Wow, 13%.
Yeah. So,
oh my God, that's crazy.
I only taught for 5 years. I started out making $36,000 a year. I think I ended making like 42. You know, but I had, I think, 50,000 in my 401k by the time I left teaching, just from that, because it was such a large amount. And guess what? I didn't miss it because it was going in there.
You don't feel it.
Yes.
You don't feel it. So like if you have a law firm, one of the greatest advantages is you can open a 401k both for yourself and your family's future, but you can also, it's great for talent retention, right? People understand that's a real perk. Like that's real money. So we also have profit sharing that if you have a good year, you get a profit formula that they give you at the end of the year that you move in X. There's a formula for distribution and it goes into all the employees' 401ks. There's a tax advantage to that, obviously, for the business. And look, I want to go back to something else too. I want to be respectful of your time, but because you triggered me with this teacher conversation.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you why, but it's twofold. One, if you do nothing else and you're a firm owner, you got to look into 401ks, call Darren. I'm sure his company offers them. You can interview him, interview a couple of vendors. Going back to the teacher conversation, Christmas Eve, I'm online. I talk to everybody. So there's a guy online. He's got to be, 75. And we start talking. He's a Vietnam vet. And I said, thank you for your service because my uncle was a Vietnam vet. And we start talking about what he does. And he's talking about all these investments. He lives not too far from me. He's got this massive house. And I'm thinking, this guy did well, right? So I said, what did you do? He's talking to me about silver and gold that he's invested in. He's talking to me about all of the real estate he owns and all of the stocks or whatever.
Yeah.
So he says, I was a teacher. I go, a teacher? So he says, yeah, but what I did was any money I had, I would put some in retirement, like you're talking about, and then I always invested the rest, right? I invested in equities, I invested in real estate, and he loved precious metals. So silver and gold, right? And you're talking now, we're at an all-time high for both metals. So that's all the rage. And he's like, every 2 weeks, I bought X amount of silver, X amount of gold. He bought gold coins back when it was probably $100 a coin, back when he was in the military in Vietnam in the 60s, whatever it was in the 60s. So we're talking about a significant accumulation of generational wealth, But as a teacher, like you said, it really has less to do with how much you make versus what you do with it and your philosophy on money.
Yeah. Well, and your biggest friend, your biggest tool, your most valuable asset is time. Warren Buffett obviously has a lot of money, right? I don't know how much he has. What is it?
Right.
90 billion or
a gajillion. Yeah, he's loaded.
His average rate of return, I think, has been somewhere around 20%. He's done very well, but he's not been the world's best investor. The key secret to his success really has been time. He started investing when he was, I think, 8 years old.
Right.
And he was a millionaire by the time he was 30. He didn't become a billionaire until he was 65.
Right.
And then he made most of his money after that.
Right.
So
which makes sense, right? Because
he's been investing almost 100 years, right? And that's going to produce $1 billion.
Right. It's the same as anything else, right? Good days, bad days, it's consistency. You show up. And so I think that's one of the advantages if we land the plane like this, that, well, it matters who you do it with, but if you've got to be disciplined. You got to be disciplined. Like if you're in your 20s and 30s, like I belong to a couple of different chat groups and masterminds and all of that stuff. And I'm always befuddled when a under 30 person is like, okay, so I'm buying my first Rolex. And I'm like, okay, or you could just invest that money and that Rolex is free when you're 50.
Yeah, or you could buy 10 Rolexes,
You could buy a Patek Philippe, which is a level of wealth attached to that. That's a different story. Yeah. And it would still be free if you invested it and saved the right way, right? So I always look at it like the money I didn't spend then, everything else is free after a certain point because you're paying for it with earned, interest, return on investment money, right? Like what could you buy if you got $1 million profit on a real estate sale on a property that you held that was a rental producing property, that type of thing. So like, look, I could talk about this stuff all day with you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
So Darren's got a podcast called the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast, which I actually was on recently.
Yeah.
Darren, I want to land it with a couple of quick rapid fire Q&As. What's your favorite money habit?
Ooh, favorite money habit, automated savings. Just setting it up on autopilot, forgetting about it and stashing it away.
Right. Book recommendation.
Oh, book recommendation. Right now, I read a couple of great books this year. In our community, we're focusing on the theme profit on purpose. And so each of the books we're reading is focused on profitability. The one I really liked a lot, I think a lot of law firm owners will love, is called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Okay. Road Less Stupid. I'm going to put that on my list. Biggest financial myth.
Biggest financial myth. The one I'm really focused on right now is cash value insurance, that is a pathway to wealth. I think that's a really big myth that's out there right now that people need to be aware of.
Yeah. And again, this is great for those 20 and 30 somethings where you're starting your own firm. You might be starting your family. You should have insurance. It's not an investment, 100% not an investment. Anybody telling you that is profiting from the sale of that instrument. So that being said, there's a place for it in your life, in your overall financial plan, right? What's one action that a law firm owner should take this week if they just don't know where to start?
With their investments, let's go to Schwab, let's set up a brokerage account, and let's start putting money in it.
Okay. Listen, man, that's been awesome. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you because it's funny. I talk very freely about money, not how much I have. It's not a flashy thing.
Yeah.
I don't have emotional attachment to materialism. So for me, I use it as a scorecard. Are we up? Are we down? Are we winning? Are we not winning? Are we even? And I could talk about this type of stuff all day long because I feel like the more you talk about it, the more normalized it is.
Yeah.
And not enough people talk about it at the dinner table, except wealthy people do. My kid has heard more financial conversations at the dinner table about profits and losses and net worth statements and income statements. She's 16 going on CPA, right? Like going on, like really financially savvy. How big is your company right now? Assets under management. How much are we talking?
Total AUM is about 110 million.
Okay. So if you're a new law firm owner, older law firm owner, whatever, if you're looking to get your ducks in a row, I definitely reach out to Darren. And I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been really fun. Thank you.
It's been great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.